This chart visualizes the massive scale of a distinctly American crisis. In 2024, there were 79,384 drug overdose deaths in the United States, cementing it as one of the leading causes of injury death for adults. To combat the flow of illicit narcotics causing those deaths, the United States relies on the Joint Interagency Task Force South, or JAT South. For years, their primary mission has been to detect and monitor drug traffic in maritime domains like the Eastern Pacific. The standard playbook heavily relies on international cooperation. The U.S. provides real-time intelligence to partner nations, guiding multinational law enforcement to physically intercept drug-laden aircraft and fast-moving smuggling boats. The objective of this cooperative approach is physical interdiction. Coast Guard crews and local authorities board these vessels, seize huge quantities of cocaine and marijuana, and apprehend the individuals on board to face a criminal trial. But recently, the strategy escalated. Under an initiative called Operation Southern Spear, the U.S. military shifted away from arresting smugglers, deciding instead to target them with lethal force. This data chart of the operation lays bare the raw metrics of that military escalation. Authorities have executed 45 kinetic strikes, completely destroying 47 trafficking vessels and killing 157 suspected members of drug trafficking organizations. By crossing the threshold from policing to warfare, the United States has turned the Eastern Pacific into a fiercely contested battleground over the strict boundaries of international law. The policy framework supporting this shift was formalized with the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition. This joint security declaration officially reclassifies the targets, upgrading them from domestic criminal networks into narco-terrorists. Washington argues that these cartels possess capabilities and intentions that directly threaten the U.S. mainland. Because of the sheer scale of that threat, officials maintain that standard police work is no longer sufficient, requiring a combined military response. When questioned about the legality of firing on civilian vessels, the Pentagon states clearly that the strikes are lawful. Their official position is that all actions are conducted in full compliance with the law of armed conflict. Backing this military perspective, U.S. lawmakers point to the President's Article 2 constitutional authority. They argue the Commander-in-Chief has a direct duty to defend the country from an influx of drugs that finance designated foreign terrorist organizations. To make these lethal strikes legally viable, the government's defense deliberately reclassifies the theater of operations, treating a standard criminal transit route as an active war zone. That legal interpretation has drawn severe criticism. International organizations like Human Rights Watch explicitly condemn the campaign, labeling the vessel strikes an unlawful use of lethal force. This diagram illustrates international law's hard boundary between armed conflict and standard law enforcement duties. Critics point out the U.S. is not in a declared war with cartels. Without active armed conflict, there's no legal mechanism to designate smugglers as legitimate military targets. Consequently, human rights advocates are demanding the U.S. government immediately end the lethal campaign. They are also calling for full accountability regarding the strikes and proper redress for the families of the victims. When a state bypasses the criminal justice system to employ military violence against suspects, international observers no longer view it as national defense. They classify it as an extrajudicial killing. Today, the Eastern Pacific operates under a fractured set of rules, where two entirely different doctrines are playing out in the exact same waters. On one hand, the traditional cooperative model continues. Partner nations like Panama and Belize are still intercepting go-fast vessels, seizing multi-ton shipments of cocaine and physically arresting the crew members. On the other hand, the U.S. military is executing kinetic operations along those parallel routes, where suspected traffickers are killed instantly from the air. Running these two strategies side by side alters how the United States handles transnational crime, showing a willingness to prioritize immediate destruction over intelligence gathering and the judicial process. With tens of thousands of Americans dying from overdoses every year, the urgency of the crisis is clear. But the response forces us to ask, does the devastating domestic toll of narcotics justify erasing the legal line between a criminal suspect and an enemy combatant?